Topic D, file operations. So files in Python, much like everything else, are objects, and as we've covered in lesson 8, objects have attributes and methods, and many of these are very useful to us when we manipulate files. But before we get to them, I'd just like to cover one thing. There are actually two types of files. The first one is binary files, and manipulating these means dealing with essentially binary numbers, ones and zeros, and this is sort of low-level programming and is a little bit beyond this course. The ones we are going to be jumping into are text files. Now, text files are basically just giant collections of characters. You can put anything in a text file. You could put a document, you could put an entire book, and in fact, we are going to be working with text files that contain entire books. So let's have a look at some text file methods. So first up, probably the most important is file.open. So if you get a file, you kind of need to open it before you're going to read it or write something to it or manipulate it in any way, right? So next is file.read, which basically reads the whole file. You basically have a variable set to file.read, right? And then that's a string variable, and now it has that entire file and saved as a string. The file is also in your RAM memory of your computer. Next is file.readline. So that basically reads a single line from the file into the memory. File.readlines basically reads all the lines and makes a list of strings, and that could be a format that's very useful to you. Finally, file.write. You can basically write anything you want to a file. So just look in there, there would be a string input, and you would use that. Next is file.seek. So basically, if you want to write to a particular line or read from a particular line, you can use the file seek. And where that takes you is actually like sort of the character index in the file. Now, there's one more that deserves an honorable mention, is file.close. Where, you're probably working on this on Python on a computer, on a PC or a laptop, where you've got gigabytes of RAM, and the biggest files here are like a fraction, a tenth of a percentage of your RAM. But say that if we were writing a Python program on a little microcontroller with a small amount of memory, you would want to close files because then you'd free up the RAM space you need for the other stuff. So I just thought I would mention the file.close. So let's have a look at some examples about reading to files. So I want to talk a little bit more about, reading and writing to files. And I want to start by talking a little bit more about the open method. So it's a built-in function in Python used to read a file. It takes two arguments. The first one is the file name, and the next one is the mode. I'm going to get into the mode a little bit. The mode is passed to the function and it determines what kind of file object you will get back and what you'll be able to do with it. So you can basically, after writing the name of the file, you can specify the mode. The default is actually read. So you probably would have seen just used open without anything after. So the default with files is reading. But if you put W, then you'll be able to write to that file. If you put A, you'll be writing to the end of the file, not the beginning. And if you put R+, you'll be able to read and write to that same file. Okay, now let's do some hands-on demos with reading and writing to files. So in this video, we're going to get started with file operations. In particular, we're going to be reading a text file. So the text file that I'm going to use with this is actually the text file for the Harry Potter book 1. So I got this from Project Gutenberg, where you can basically get free text file versions of tens of thousands of famous books. All right. So the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to use the open function to open the text file, and then the read function to read it. So we're going to basically say this text equals to open, and this is where you have to be very, very specific. You have to basically name the file exactly Harry Potter Now the argument here, you have options. You got like R, read, R plus, which is read and write, W, write. I'm just going to pick because we're really only going to be reading this file. So now the file is opened, but it's not read. So we can now take that same variable, might as well, equals to text dot read. So text is basically the variable where the open file is saved. Now we're read it, and this basically converts it to a string. So at this point, we could print text. Here, read file, and that's the whole book right there. And what's amazing is how quick this actually, not so much how quickly it gets read, it's very small sort of file size, but how quickly it prints. Okay, so we can print it. Now let's do some basic operations on it. Since you're dealing with just a string, I mean, we can split the thing on, I don't know, a full stop. So if you think about it, if we say sentences is going to be a list equals to text dot split, and you can split on a particular character, split on a full stop. And now, since it's Harry Potter, we can do something like this for sentence and sentences. You pick a character. I'm just going to do Harry. So you're going to know that Harry Potter is in the Harry Potter book. So if Harry in sentence, we can print sentence. So what this is going to do is just print a sequence of sentences in which Harry is. It was Uncle Vernon, nerve of Harry, carrying the owl in the station. See Harry Potter, she squealed. So basically, everything that is between two full stops essentially is a sentence. And every one of those that has Harry in it has been printed. So it's a lot more brief, but still, there's a lot of sentences with Harry and Harry Potter. So there you go. That's a simple, fun operation that you can do with a file that you just read. It is surprisingly easy with Python, and in the next video we're going to learn how to write the files. So in this video we are going to write to a text file, and we're going to write to it in several different ways. But first we're going to create a text file that we can write to. Then we're actually going to try to write a sequence of numbers where each number is in a new line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, except that each number is basically on a different line. So we're going to make 10 lines. And afterwards, we're going to try to write at something at the start and something at the end of that sequence. So I'm going to set it up so that we run into some bugs and fix those along the way. So that should be interesting. So first things first, create a text file. Right-click your directory, right here, anywhere, new file. And we can call this blank text dot txt. So you've created it. It's actually right there. You can close it now. You can open it when we've written something to it. So we're back in this right file. So we can now begin to, I'll actually start from the top. We can begin to create this variable for a text file. So that's going to be open. So in here, we're going to have to get the name of the text file, exact blank text dot txt, comma. So we're going to be writing on it. So you can use the R plus or the W, and just kind of like the R plus in case you may want to read something from the file as well at some point. So now we have basically got a file we can write to, and let's test that out. We can basically text dot write and write a character A. So if I play that and go into the text file, which is, where is it? Blank text. There's that character A. That worked. So okay, a bit of a challenge now. Let's create that sequence. So I'm going to go for I in range. If I want to write 0 to 10, so 0, 11, we can text dot write. Now, if you try to write I, it should give you an error. At least I imagine it would, because that's an integer. So we're going to have to convert I to a string and go to blank text. There it is. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So how do you basically get to a new line? It involves just writing a new line character. So text.write in quotation marks, backslash. So this will be interesting. When we write that, what's going to remain of this? All right, we need to get back into our file, press play. That's written it, blank text. So that's essentially been overwritten. Quite interesting. So let's try to add like the start and the end. So we can text.write here. We can write the end, and that should appear at the end of the file. So press play, blank text, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So if we want to override this 0 and write the start, there is a seek method. So our file over here, there's a seek. So there's a text dot seek, and you can go to essentially it's like character 0, and then you can try text dot write the start. Now something interesting is going to happen. Watch this. The start, and then you go 3. Where is 1 and 2? That's what I want to know. So what if we just added a new line after we've written the start? I mean, that would make any difference. So these, that does something. However, what's going on here when you're writing this character is that basically the text file, the new line is just a new line character, and that's got to do with reading it. It's almost like one infinite sequence of characters. So if you want to generate more blank characters, all you need to do is basically when you're writing on a particular line, just add a whole bunch of blank space. 30 times blank. And watch this. This starts 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10. And I don't really think we need this new one at all. So have a play with this. The challenge is to recognize that this is not some table. There are no, like the new line thing in a string. The text file is like a string with new line characters. And it's used in printing, not so much in storing of the data. So just to recap, in this program, we've opened a text file that we've just created. We've opened it to be ready to be written and read from. We wrote numbers 1 through 10. We appended some text at the end and managed to append some text at the start as well.